relay 364.
When you think about it, this thing exploded. I'm there, 25 years ago. Anybody listen about DNA? And now you can't get away from it.
The power of this technology when...
There are few people in this world who have touched as many people, changed as many lives as Richmond's own Paul Ferrara. Because of his intelligence, his vision, his highly organized brain, many of the world's worst criminals have been caught, kept from raping and murdering again. The innocent have been set free. He changed how we see things.
Best wishes, okay?
Even the books we read, the shows we watch.
You really can blame Paul Ferrara for CSI. You know, for all these shows, all these movies, all these books.
The sample that we had.
Dr. Ferrara's orderly mind helped guide us through the treacherous landscape of life and death decisions.
A bonds with C.
Now, that orderly mind is under attack. Stage 4 brain cancer has defied surgery and rounds of radiation and chemotherapy. Instead of pondering the joys of retirement and the mysteries of golf, he's having to confront his own mortality.
No, I've come to grips with this. I've got everything is taken care of. I've had time to prepare. I've had time to think about it.
If you think about it, until now, this guy has led a charmed life, like he was destined to become the catalyst in a forensic science and criminal justice revolution. This organic chemist, schooled in Syracuse, could have stuck with his nice job in Waynesboro for DuPont.
It wasn't much of a sense of satisfaction to be gained there.
1 relay 364.
His orderly mind itched to fight disorder in society. He wanted to use his science to fight crime.
And this was an opportunity to get close down to, helping investigators.
Ferrara came to the state lab in the midst of an avalanche of drug cases.
With the tremendous volume of contraband drugs that were coming in and had to be analyzed and be prosecuted. The day we opened our doors of that laboratory, we did not have a backlog of cases.
Thank you.
And thank you what you've done for our country. He's one of the sort of the Renaissance men of forensic science. Even though his specialty is molecular biology and DNA and things like that, he knows about it all.
As scientists began unlocking the secrets of DNA, the building blocks of life, Ferrara recognized genetic fingerprinting's potential as a crime-fighting tool.
While controversial at the time, it was such a no-brainer in terms of what it could do from an investigative lead.
But he had to sell the complex concept to prosecutors, police, judges, and legislators who had to pass laws to make such a database legal.
It's the blueprint, the double helix, trying to lay out, because in those early terms, because DNA was not a common term at all. So it took an awful lot of early on explanation, building up confidence in this revolutionary technology.
It was the fall of 1987. 2 grown women and a 15-year-old girl raped and strangled to death in their homes in South Richmond or Chesterfield. There was no suspect. Fear gripped the city.
Women were scared. Women were very much afraid.
Because it was so random and it was so illogical.
The strangler was positively identified by a DNA match from a lab in Northern Virginia, where he had struck again. Timothy Spencer became Virginia's DNA reliability test case.
Essentially, the only evidence they had against Timothy Spencer was DNA evidence at the scene of the 3 crimes on which I ultimately represented him. I tried to contact people to give me information on it, and at that time it was literally so new, it was very difficult.
That was actually the first serial capital murder DNA case resolved, prosecuted, and executed.
The stunning DNA strangler hit came as Ferrara prepared to ask the Virginia General Assembly to pass a law allowing the establishment of a DNA databank and for money to fund it.
The phone calls cascaded. Paul obviously calls the folks in the General Assembly and lets them know that, that it does work. And it wasn't a question of whether it was going to be funded, but are you sure this is enough to get you started?
just a trace of DNA.
Once we passed those statutes and we started making hits, like in the Debbie Smith case, the word spread, and Katie barred the door, because we went from there to, for years, the largest DNA data bank in the world.
It may not have prevented my rape, but...
Among the earlier cases solved by the databank was the March 1989 rape of Debbie Smith in Williamsburg. She was kidnapped from her home while her husband, a police officer who had worked an overnight shift, was sleeping upstairs. 6 years later, a DNA databank cold hit ended her nightmare.
For the first time in 6.5 years, I could feel myself breathe again.
When Paul came to me and asked me, told me what he wanted and what he needed, was for somebody to come in and make people understand the victim's side of this, I told him, no, he had the wrong person. So he took me into the evidence room, and it just broke my heart. I saw all of these boxes just from floor to ceiling with black numbers on them, and I asked him, I said, what is all of this? And he explained to me that these were kits that had never been tested before. And I just couldn't imagine that I could make a difference in that. But I felt like if Paul thought that I could, then I at least had to try.
Next thing I know, she's up in Congress. She's all over the world.
Debbie Smith became the face of a push that has raised hundreds of millions of dollars to try to catch up to the backlog of rape and other violent crime evidence that could solve and prevent countless other crimes. Virginia's data bank may have crashed and might not have spread across the country if it hadn't been immediately seen as impartial. The list of those wrongly accused or convicted who were exonerated by DNA grows every day.
For purpose of exclusion, for purpose of saying you are not the one, dead bang on. It's righteous.
The very same DNA that nailed Spencer cleared a man who had been locked down for one of the attacks. Under Dr. Ferrara's leadership, Virginia became a world leader of forensic science.
I would say that Paul has changed the world, not just changed lives. He's changed forensic science in the world. He's changed people. He's changed me.
Those whose lives have been touched by Paul Ferrara are deeply moved by the fact that he now could lose his own life.
And it just breaks my heart to even think about it.
I am sure that someday, 20 years from now, 25 years, 30 years from now, some person will be cleared, or some crime will be solved, or somebody who is terrorizing the public will be taken off the street. And they really should mention Paul's name.
I'm blessed. I've been very, very blessed in just, having opportunities to, to raise a wonderful family, to have a wonderful career, a wonderful wife. 68, that's okay. I did good, I think, after all said and done.